You can translate it. זה אחד האזורים היחידים בעולם שלו יהודים כיוונים. כל הקהילות הללו חיו בחסדיהם ולפי גחמותיהם של שבטים כורדים או מושלים עות'מאנים או פרסים ותחת דיכוי ושעבוד מתמיד. מוסול העות'מאנית, העות'מאני יהודים חיו כפצפיתים ורכושם הפרטי של אדונים פאודליים מקומיים. מרדכי יונה הגדיר את העיר צפו שבעיראק, הגדיר באחד מספריו בצדק את מעמדם של היהודים באזורים האלה כחיים שנפדו. הוא גם תיעד את רדיפות יהודי זפו בשלהי המאה ה-19 שהתאבדו בשוד, גזל, שרפת בתי כנסת, רצח, מאסר ועינויים. זה ישראל בן יוסף בנימין שהגיע ממולדובה לאזור מוסול, למחוז מוסול, לעות'מאנית ב-1845, סבלות היהודים, בין השאר, ואני מצטט, לעתים מוכרחים הם על לעבוד עבודת עבד, במלאכות אדוניהם, לחרוש ולזרוע ולאסוף תבואת אדמתו חינם אין כסף. והאדון יוכל למוכרם לעבדים ולשפחות. בשנת 1879 כתב הרב שלמה חוצין מבגדד כי היהודים שחיו הערות מאת גויי הארץ. בכל אחד מבני עמנו יש עליו אדון נוכרי, וכשאין כסף לאדון זה, הוא מוכרו, כלומר מוכר את היהודי לאדון אחר בשוק, לעיני הכל, כי אדם המוכר שורו חמורות באין מחלים, לא קשם. ואכן ידוע ששליטים כורדים מכרו יהודים בעלי מלאכה לשליטים אחרים, שהם נזקקו להם כבעלי מקצוע, כפי שמכרו להם מקנה או סוסים, ולפי תעריף קבוע, לכל יהודי וגם לפי המצב הבריאותי, לפי הגיל. עכשיו הוא שונא הבריטי שביקר באזור בתחילת המאה ה-20, מספר על אחד השליטים הכורדים שהיה לו לדבריו עדר פרטי של יהודים מבויתים, לא פרות, כן? והוא התאמר ככל שפרץ לבוא. חפים יותר שבהם שתיקים תצליחים למעלה חושבת שאחרי 1896 כאשר יהודי העיירה קויסרצ'אק עמדו במס בסכום עצום ובלתי אפשרי שהם צריכים לשלם אותו לשליט המקומי. השליט הורה לרצוח את הרב הקהילה כדי ללמד אותם לקח. גם הקהילות דוברות הערבית לאיראן סבלו לעתים או לשטחים מקומיים או מהאוכלוסייה המקומית. אין ספק שהיו מקומות רבים שבהם התפתחה ידידות בין יהודים לדוברי ערבית לשכניהם הכורדים. במקומות מסוימים שבתים המושלים נוחים ליהודים ואפילו נחומים, אבל מקומות רבים היהודים דוברי ערבית סבלו בדיכוי, עושק, התעמרות מצד השלטונות, ולעיתים אפילו הם נתונים לסכנה קיומית. לכן לא מפתיע שיהודים דוברי ערבית רבים קצו בחיי השפלה האלה ושאפו לעלות ארצה. כבר בשלהי המאה ה-19 עלו ארצה לראשונה מאות יהודים דוברי ערבית והשתתפו ברוב היהודים בירושלים, כבר כידוע עלייתם ההמונית החלה לאחר המדינה, בעיקר בשנות ה-50. לפני עלייה ארצה, התודעה האתנית היחידה של דוברי ערבית היהודים הייתה שהם יהודים, שנות יהודים בתולו. זאת בניגוד לשכניהם המוסלמים, המצרים, היזידים, ככה הם הגדירו את עצמם של יהודים, ואחד הם הגדירו את עצמם לערבית, אולי, עוזאי, אולי, רק לאחר שהם עלו ארצה, נדבק להם הגילוי קוראים על ידי היהודים המקומיים, היהודים בארץ, וגם הערבים המקומיים, ועד מהרה גם רוב היהודים והערבים ימצאו הגדרה זו לעצמם. עם זאת, יש זהויות עדתיות אחרות בגדה, אולי שמעתם על העדה השמידה, העדה השמידה שמקורה באזור אזור שלא היה, לא אתה באוכלוסייה כמעט והשפה לא הייתה עצרת, עד היום, השפה האזרבייג'נית, השפה של בלדוקית, והם אינם בכלל קורדים, ובפרט בשנים האחרונות יותר ויותר היהודים המכונים קורדים, המקבילים עצמם, היהודים השומים, בנצר, נצר לא אומר ענף ערבי, שאליו שייכת הערבית של המוראים והגאונים בבבל. נצר ערבי מודרני זה המוצר בשיפוט ביחס הערבית הקדומה, כל אחרים של המקדום, הלקסיקון. מוצר המילים הבסיסי הוא ערבי המקור, אבל מילים רבות אינן שקופות מבחינת שולחן לשפה הערבית, בשל שינויים מרחיקי לכת בהגייתם, במבנם ובמשמעותם. כך למשל בכמה להקים של לגמור שצריך על הוראת הסקימטג רוצה המילה הזאת, אולי יש לה בסדר, גם בארמית, גם שורש מוכר, השורש השמי, רוצה המילה בארמית עתיקה יתיר, צורת הנקבה של יתיר, משמעה בארמית העתיקה יותר, משהו נוסף. כן, כמובן, קשה מיד יתרתה לארמית העתיקה יתרתה, אבל יש להגיד נושאים שבהם העברה הראשונה שעדיין משתממת בו, יתירתה. נוכן, המילה מזכירה, למי שיודע עברית, המילה מזכירה את האנטומי יותרת. יש להוסיף כי באוצר המילים של הערבית החדשה, לרבות זו שלפי מקומיים יש השפעות כבדות של השפות המקומיות, ולא מפתיע שבראשן הקורבית, ובייחוד תקווה גם השפעות כבדות של הערבית. גיאוגרפית בין להגים ערבים חדשים שונים, וניתוק כמעט גבור, קהילות ומתקות, יצרו במשך מאות רבות של שנים להגים מובחנים זה מזה מבחינת דמוגרפית ולקסיקלית, עד כדי כך שבין דוגמי להגים מובחקים, אין לנושא הבנה בביטו לכל נמד יותר מתקשרת הבנה בביטו קלושה. מותר לדבר על מעין משקול רב גוני של שפות ערביות חדשות, ולא על שפה ערבית מודרנית אחת. במסגרת זו אין שפה אחת מבחינה מאפיינת את היהודים דוברי ערבית, שניתן אולי לכנות ערבית חדשה יהודית, אלא מדובר בספקטרום מגוון מאוד של וריאציות לשוניות גיאוגרפיות, אולי קצת דומה למה שקורה למשל בשפות הרומניות, שמדברות פורטוגל ורומניה, באירופה. להיות שדברתי על פערים עמוקים וחוסר הבנה בדמיותים, שיתוף נוסף את הפערים, משהו מן הפערים העמוקים בין להגיע הערבית החדשה היהודית, באמצעות השוואה של כמה מילים בשני להגים יהודיים שהם מאוד שונים ומובחנים זה מזה, לא פחות מאשר למשל רומנית שונה מספרדית או שונה פורטוגלית, והם להג בין תנובה, בצפון עיראק, ראינו אותו במפה, צפון עיראק, רוב מתקדמים, לעומת להג סנדאג' בצפון מערב עיראק. ראינו במפה את תגל סנדאג', כן, שהיא נמצאת בערבית לבית תנובה. כן, דוברי סנדאג' ובית תנובה אינם יכולים לתקשר ביניהם בערבית בכלל, אם הם נפגשים למשל בשוק או איזשהו מקום, הם מבינים הם צריכים לדבר, הם ידברו ביניהם עברית, הם פשוט לא יכולו להביא את זה. אחת הסיבות להיעדר ההבנה הדתית, מעבר לדוקה שונה מאוד בין שני הלהגים, הללו היא ששני הלהגים, הללו יש מילים רבות שמשתלשלות מאותו מקור ארמי, אבל נבדלות מאוד בידן או במשמעה. ואני רוצה להציג 8 מילים ארמיות משמעותות, 8 מילים שהגיעו באותו מקור משותף ולסמנטאץ', 4 שמות ו4 פעלים שהתפתחו בדרכים שונות לגמרי בכל אחד מהלהגים הללו, כדי להמחיש מעט את השוני העצום בין שני הלהגים שכאמור מונע לחלוטין כל עבודה הדתית לדובי מסכת. אני אשיב קצת ונעיין ב8 מילים, ו8 המילים האלה שבחרתי, והייתי פתחות כמובן הרבה יותר, אבל קצרה יריעה אז אני בחרתי כאמור בשני להגים, בעצם אני רק בצמדה במעלה מירם ובשני מילים, 4 שמות ו4 פעלים. אז יש לנו כאן בכחול המקור הארמי, המשורסר, אבל ברוב המקרים אנחנו יכולים לראות את הצורות הללו האלה בארמית ספרותית, בארמית ספרותית, וגם חלקם קרות לכם מן העברית. כיצד המילים השתלשלו בשני הלהגים שלך, כן? אז אם כן, המילה הראשונה, אבנה, שהייתה צורת ריבוי באמת טובה, כן, צורת ריבוי של אבנה עוזר, וקורא ציינה חיבור באוזניים, אבל אם עלינו שתתקדים עליהם, הריבוי עבר איזשהו תהליך שבו ניפסתי אחים, ניסציה, כן, תהליך שהריבוי הפך ניפסתי אחים, ואז קיבלנו בצורה הזאת נאפה, עוזר, לא מנפוס בערבית, גם מצרים, יסרו את המילה הזאת, נאפה עוזר ככה, כלומר, מה שקרה בצלדת שהתפתחה בצורה נחלה. יש לו כמה אנשים שנמצאים בבינם שלהם. לא התפלו. שימו לב שבעצם השורש הזה על שיטה לבנות, כל מה שנשאר זה עלות, בעצם הייצור האחרון של עוצם למילה הארמית, של השורש הזה על שיטה לבנות, העלות שהייצור האחרון הפך לייצור הראשון בכלל, וגם חטא שבכלל לחלוטין לא קשורה לשורש, גם שחברה ואפשר להסביר כיצד, לא זה המקום להסביר, להסביר, כיצד בעצם התפתחה פה חטא שאיננה בטיפולוגית, שאינה קשורה לשורש, של המוצא. כן, ויש פה קצת אפרה מקום, או כמה נותנים באתר, בנלפות, בהקשר אתר באינטרנט, שבתנור עדיין דומה מאוד לצורת המוצא אפרה כארץ, חבל ארץ, מחוז, כפרי, כן, ובתנור לעומת הצורה אחרה, צריך לדעת שמציין עיר או עיירה, גם באזור לאומי שאיננו אטימולוגי שהתפתח כאן. והצורה משוצרת סבורתה, אצבע, כן, שבתנור אנחנו רואים אותה כסבורתה, בסנדט שבדרך כלל, כן, המילה הזו התפתחה לצורה סמורתה, כן, לעתים יש כאלה שקוראים סמורתה, אבל בדרך כלל רואים סמורתה, במר. שימו לב שבמילה סמורתה לא נותר זכר ולשום דבר בעצם מהיצורים של סבורתה, מהיצורים שאנחנו גם שומעים אותם בעברית במילה אצבע, מצדי בית עין, צדי בית עין, לא נותר כלום. עד כדי ככה המילה וסנדל"ט התרחקה ונשרפה הלאה מהמוצא הקדומה שלה.
סליחה, יש לך ממש דקות ספורות.
כן, אני מיד מסיים. והנה עוד דוגמה, שפרקה חיבוק, לחבק בעברית, שעדיין דומה מאוד. שפרקה בתנורי לחבק, נטען שנישא בשתי הזרועות, לעומת סנדל"ט שפרקה ללא חטא, נטען שנישא בשתי הזרועות, שאיזשהו משהו שמחבקים אותו כמו מטען של עצים, ופעלים בין עבד עושה שהפך לעווד, בבית הנורה, לעומת הול שיעשה, גם במילה הזאת, הול, אין שום דבר שנותר מהשורש, עין בית דלת, כלום בעצם, הול, אבל זה המוצא, אפשר להוכיח את זה, שזה המוצא, שהמוצא הוא עבד, וזה הפך להול. באה לטעות בדרך, שהפך לבאה באלף שקשור בלחפש, ובסנדל"ט שתחה, חן תמורת עין בסיפור יצורים, הוא מוצא העץ, דוחב, נועץ, כן, שבבית סמך שינעץ, אבל בסנדל"ט שוב חן תמורת עין וסיפור יצורים, תסך הוא נועץ, והצורה האחרונה, בפרח, בו, כן, בבית הנורה פרלוך, ובסנדל"ט הלוך, בו. כאילו שהיינו אומרים בו לך. אז אני הפסקתי שוב במסך ואני מסכם. כן, אני לסיכום דיברתי מעט על מקורות היהודים בארמית ועל הלהגים המגוונים שלהם. התייחסתי לכך שיש פערים עצומים בין חלק מהלהגים הללו, והדגמתי זאת בכמה מילים נבחרות משני להגים טובים של הארמית החדשה. תודה רבה לכם על השתתפות ועל ההקשבה.
תודה רבה לפרופסור חזי מוסף על ההרצאה היפה והמלומדת, ואני מוסרת בשם הכותבים בצ'אט, ברכות רבות לפרופסור יונה צבר, אינני יודעת אם הוא נמצא איתנו או לא, אבל בכל מקרה חושבים עליך ומוסרים לך דרישת שלום חמה ואיחולי בריאות ואריכות ימים, ועתה אנחנו עושים את נחתה, עוד מילה ערבית, ידבר עתה המשורר איציק ברוך, ויקרא פואמה. בבקשה.
כל המכובדים.
Oh, look at that. I've got somebody here. Hold on a second. Let me turn this off.
כמה מילים. לפני למעלה מ10 שנים.
I'd been listening to there's a kenes about Aramaic, which I thought was a very appropriate thing for me to be doing now. Okay. It started at 6:00 and I was listening to it. So it turns out that the Jews from Kurdistan, the Kurdi Jews, were actually are still speaking. Well, most of them have now moved to Israel and they speak Hebrew, and they probably don't speak the language that they used to speak at home, just like Yiddish went way down for quite a while. And so the kenes is partly about trying to track down people for whom it's really their sfatem, that they grew up speaking that's the language that their parents spoke, and they grew up speaking it as children, and they didn't learn Hebrew until later, etc. Because most of these people are now here in Israel, and so that's very interesting. And there were linguists, and it was very nice to see that a lot of those, linguistic shifts that I keep talking about. So all these professional linguists are busy talking about exactly the same linguistic shifts that I've identified, and I was like, oh, see, it's okay. My level of expertise as a linguist ended with my bachelor's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in linguistics, but I'm not on their level. But it was really very interesting. And somebody went through and he was listing off all the places both in the tefillah that we have, and in, the Targumim and the Gemara and the Zohar, and like the stuff that we are particularly, and also of course the Gemaras, but it's like, that's exactly what we're dealing with. So anyway, it was very interesting sort of listening to some of the stuff, but you are the first person to show up. So we're going to get started a little late, and anybody else who joins us is going to be very welcome to join us. And I need to share my screen now, and I need to make sure that I share the right one. Hold on a second. This one. Okay. Very good. All right. So we had left off, I think you had to leave already for whatever reason, and just Susan and I were continuing. And the last pasuk that we did was actually Yud Tet, which ends with Motar ha'adam min behema ayin ki kol hava. And we'll open up the Targum while we're at it. And it actually, there'd been a fair amount of other stuff with that verse, but the end of it, the straightforward translation is the advantage of a human over the animal is nothing because everything is futile. We say this every morning, and it seems like a kind of depressing thing to say every morning, except that I've learned two, I don't know if they were both from Chassidut, but I've learned two perushim for that, one of which I remembered because it's the one that I guess I most often think of, but there actually are two, and I promised that I would bring the second one today. So the first one, just to review, the first one is Motar adam min habehema ayin. The advantage of a person over an animal is that a person can say no. Okay? Because if you can't say no, if you're just at the, you're driven by your ta'avot, you're driven by even driven by the outside, by other people saying this, and you don't know how to say no, and you can't set good boundaries, then how are you any better or any different than an animal? Okay, and so that was one piece that I had learned, and the other one, and I don't know, whatever, I couldn't come up with it like that at the end of the Sidna last week. The other one is using ayin as Rashi Tevot. Adam yesh neshama. The advantage of a person over an animal is that a person has a neshama. And as long as you live in a way that shows that you have a neshama and you're connected to your neshama, then you can't say that everything is futile. But if you are not living in such a way that shows that you're connected to your neshama, then it does make sense to say a kol hava. Anyway, so those are the two that I have from outside. It's not particularly related really to the Targum. But I make sure this is really the Targum for 19. Yes. Okay. So, right, the Targum on that was trying to find Nishmat Ruach Tarvehum Kachara Eitan Kogva Sharut Gava Chayva Min Be'era, and what sort of remains, whatever, of a person if he sins. That was what it was, is that the Targum took this and said it's not just Stam Adam, it's a person who sins. Okay? And it's not just Stam Behema, Okay, even at the top part, right? The mikra of people and the mikra of a behema are the same. And the Targum says, well, not in general. The mikra of a sinner and the mikra of a behema tme'ah are the same. Right? That was what the pasuk had been doing. And it's saying, and then at some point in there, it said that if the person doesn't return in tshuva before his death, then there's ruach achad l'kol, both the tamei animal, which it's very hard for us. I mean, like, how do you raise nitzotzot of a tamei animal? Because you can't kill it. I mean, you can't shecht it, and you can't eat it, and you can't offer it as a korban, and they're questionable as to whether you're even supposed to use the leather from it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, how do you even work with that in any kind of a mitzvah way other than to avoid it? And so
is using it as leather only for mitzvah purposes a question, or in general it's a question?
I think that there is a question according to some poskim, okay, about using it in general.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, for mitzvah purposes, it's a sur. Okay, because for mitzvah purposes, you can't even use the hide of a cow that wasn't shechted. Okay, to make tefillin or a sefer Torah, it has to be from an animal that was properly shechted and was not treif.
Okay.
But for an animal, so you can't make a mezuzah or tefillin or sefer Torah or whatever, and not even the mezuzah. I mean, not even the tefillin straps. I'm not just talking about the cloth that you write on, but even the straps and the box of the tefillin have to be made from the ore of the hide of a kosher animal. In the full sense of kosher, like it was shechted and found to be kosher. There are some people who say that even for something like shoes, you shouldn't use the hide of a tamei animal, but it's okay to use, like cow leather that came from, even if the cow was found to be treif or something, you could use that for shoes or for a belt or whatever. As often, there's a wealth of options within the poskim as to who thinks which way. And I did not review that prior to this, so I'm not speaking beyond that. All right. We are therefore up to Pasuk Kaf. And you can go for it.
הכל הולך אל מקום אחד. הכל היה מן העפר והכל שב אל העפר. Everything goes to one place. Everything was from dust and everything returns to dust. כולה אזלין לאתר אחד. Everything goes to one place. כל דיירי ערה התבריאו מן עפרה. Everything that lives on the ground was created from the afar. V'kad yemuton kulhon. And what is kad? I should know it.
Asher.
Asher.
Ka-asher.
Ka-asher.
When? Yeah.
And when all of them will die in the future, Atidin, in the future, lemituf leafra. I mean, I understand that it's to lashuv, but why? What's the mem doing here?
All of the infinitives, especially in the kal form, it's lamed mem.
Mem. Okay.
Right, like leme'abad. I mean, we see this sort of repeated. Like it's lamed instead of just a lamed, like we have in Hebrew. You have a lamed men in Aramaic, right? And then the taf shin switch. Yeah. Okay. I mean, so the Targum made a little more explicit that Hakol here is referring to creatures that live, and then the returning is about creatures that die. So it's interesting. I think actually the Hebrew is more evocative in some way, that it's everything. You have even rocks, even like everything, just eventually with time wears away and returns back to being dust. So that's just me, I mean, but the Targum is focusing us on humans, probably even more diarrhea. I mean, you're right to translate it as those who live on the earth were created from dust, but I think that the Targum is thinking of humans as being diarrhea and not animals as being diarrhea. But I don't know. I don't have evidence from other places to be able to prove that. Okay, so Kaf Aleph, Mi yodei ruach b'nei ha'adam ha'olah hi lamala v'ruach ha'behema hayoredet hi lamata la'aretz. So, I mean, part of what's going on with these psukim is we're still back with that pasuk yud tet. It's like a continuation in the idea of humans and animals, and are there differences between them? Are there not differences between them? In which case, perhaps the way that you read it, in fact, was what the Targum meant. I can't prove it out one way or the other. So who knows? The spirit or the breath, whatever, of humans it goes up above, and the ruach, the vitality, whatever, of the animal that goes down to the bottom instead of up to above to the earth. It's interesting. Okay, so here it's ruach habehema. I guess I'm hearing echoes of all the Musar Sfarim that I'm familiar with talks about a ruach behemit, neshama behemit, as opposed, right, that the Yetzer Hara or whatever belongs to that. In other words, that we have an animal side to our nature, and we have a more ruchni side to our nature, more, right, here's that word ruach, a more spiritual side to our nature. And so the spiritual side goes up and the animal side goes down. I don't know if that's what Shlomo HaMelech had in mind. The Targum translates it and says, Man hu chachima, who is the wise person who can know? So it's interesting because, like, if I just read this, who is it who knows? Well, I mean, maybe your answer is God, right? Who knows? But the Targum is indicating, no, that Shlomo is aiming this at people. Which one of you can distinguish? Okay. Who is wise enough that he knows if the ruach of the neshama of people, hasal, I translated without reading, I apologize, chachima degeda, in ruach nishmata v'nei anasha, hasalka hi le'ela, l'rikia. Ruach nishmata dev'ira, hanachata hi l'ra, la'ara. Okay, so who is wise that he should know? And it's interesting because I typically read in as if the ruach of the neshama, okay, of a human that it's going to go up. Lisalek is to go up in Aramaic as opposed to be removed in Hebrew. Le'ela is above. L'rikia, the rikia is the place in the heavens, right, up above. And the ruach of the nishmata, of the neshama, of be'ira is animal. Hanachata, we actually have that shorish in Hebrew, meaning like linchot is, actually I think we took it from the Aramaic, to be honest, but linchot is the word that we use for like when an airplane lands. Something lands on the ground. Now, when it says l'ra here, it does not mean to bad or to evil. You might hear that in it, and I'm fairly sure that anybody who was reading Targum would tend to hear that. But if you think about when we speak about where the accent of a syllable is, we have mil'el and milra. Okay, mil'el is the accent is earlier, and milra is the accent is later in the word. Okay, so ultimate and penultimate accent for the syllable, and milra, and that's that ra. Ra is bottom at the end. And so as tempting as it is to say that the animalistic spirit lands down in evil, I don't think that's what it means. I think that it is just a very straightforward translation of lamata, is lora. As for instance, like I said, milra. So it's interesting because le'ela, okay, or le'el, okay, something that's come into Hebrew. So if you're going to say as aforementioned, right? So that can be kanal or it can be le'el, earlier in the text, such and such was said. We don't use the equivalent for meaning later in the text, because it has that unfortunate cognate to Hebrew of it's being bad. And so, in fact, what we use instead is we say lakaman, that which is coming forward, that which is standing in front of us. We haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so we have le'el and lakaman. But as opposed to le'el and l'ra. But I think that's because of the Hebrew more than anything else. Okay, one more pasuk and we finish the parak, and then we can move to the next parak. Bekavod.
וראיתי כי אין טוב מאשר ישמח האדם במעשיו, כי הוא חלקו, כי מי יביאנו לראות במה שיהיה אחריו. And I saw that there is no good, but only that which makes a person happy with his actions, because this is his portion, because who will bring him to see, I don't know how to translate b'meh.
In that,
Okay.
to see that, I mean, just translate it as that, I think.
Okay.
Which will be
after him.
Yeah.
That's enigmatic pasuk.
Well, actually, I actually like it a lot. I saw that there was nothing. I would actually read Tov Me'asher as there's nothing better.
Okay.
Than that a person should yismach b'ma'asav. So I was learning Orot Tshuva with Reb Shlomo Carlebach's Perush on it. And one of the things that he defined as as when you're, whether it's when you're in a state of tshuva or when you're in a state that needs less tshuva than other states, is when you look back on your day and you say, that was a really good day. I hope I have another day like this. I davened, I played with kids, I was, I gave chizuk to somebody. I had a good day. I learned. I would really like to have, I was effective. I did whatever. And I look at my day and I say, I'd like to, that was a good day. I would live that one over again. Right. So there's nothing better for a person than to be living their life in a way that they feel, and Simcha in general, and normally in Tanakh, whether in Kohelet it follows that rule or not, but Simcha in general in Tanakh is talking about Simcha Shel Mitzvah. So there's nothing better for a person than that they should have that true Simcha of Mitzvah with what they did, right? Because that's the only thing you can take with you, right? That is your Kohelet. That's the only thing you can do. And, because I can't tell what's going to come. I don't know what the consequences of anything are. All I know is, do I feel really good about what I was doing today? Do I want another day like this? Or, that's what Reb Shlomo was telling the story about, sitting with somebody, I don't know, on a train, on a bus, something like that. And I'm getting into a conversation with him, and, the person was like, and I don't know how to do whatever it was. And he said to him, well, are you happy with who you are? Are you happy? Do you want to have another day tomorrow like you had today, doing the same sorts of things, being involved in the same sorts of things? And the person was like, no way. And so Shlomo was like, yeah, then you need to do tshuva, because tshuva is to return to who you really are, which is a place where you ought to be happy with yourself. And whether that's what Shlomo Melech had in mind, but for me, this pasuk is bringing me echoes of Orot Tshuva, and learning this right now in Elul is obviously brings up. But let's see how the Targum thinks we should understand the pasuk.
Bechazeit, I saw Arum smart. No, what's Arum? Don't remember. Arum
like array. This is the Yerushalmi dialect. This is the Eretz Israeli dialect. So they use Arum instead of using array, and it's key.
And I probably have it somewhere. Yep. And I saw the Kileit Tav Be'alma Hadein Midi Yichdei Enash Be'ovadoi Tavin. And I saw that there is no good in this world, but one person who does good.
I think it's like Yechidei Segula. I think it's plural.
Unique people who do good.
Do good deeds, right? Ovadai Masim Tavin, right? Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. Hello. Mid Yechida Yechadei. The Shoresh. Skip that beginning part. The me is from. The de is she. Me she. The yud is the beginning of the verb. The shorish is chet daled yud. I was reading it as though it was Hebrew and looking at that a ending and wanting it to be smichut. I apologize.
Okay.
With doing two Semitic languages.
Joy. We needed the word joy.
Right. That there's no good in this world more than the joy of people in their good deeds. Their masim tovim. or his of a person. The person doesn't have joy in anything more than his. That's the O ending is you're right. You were right. It's singular. It's not plural. So it's his, not their. Their good, his good deeds. Okay.
ויאכול וישתה ויוציב ליבי, and he will eat and he will drink, and his heart, it will be good in his heart. ארום הוא חולקי תו בעלמא הדין, למקנה בעלמא דעתי. Because it's, I assume, a good portion in this world to buy visit the world to come, the world that comes.
Okay.
The lo yemar einash belibe. So the person shouldn't say in his heart, lemadein ana mebazbez mamona lemevet sitkata. Why am I wasting my money to do tzedakah? Tavli de ishvakine libri batri.
I think it's but try.
Batrai.
It's hard to say, yeah.
It's better that I will save it for my son, for my daughter. Or,
my son after me. My
son after me. Oh, yeah, I confuse those. Or etzan minei beiden sifti, or I will eat from it. Beiden at this
and that's
time?
a bet. Yeah, no, it's a bet. Idan sifti, like Saba.
Or I will fit visit my father.
Idan is time. At the time of my.
I will eat from it at the time of my old age.
Right.
Kimanu de ya'aline lemecheze ma deatzit limhevoi patroi. Because what is it?
No, man is me. Man is who?
Who is I don't know how to translate the Ya'aline.
Okay. You know what? It's straight translation of Yaviano. Okay. Who will bring him, right? Because the Ayin Lamed is the bow.
Okay.
Okay. Who is it who will bring the person, the mechze?
To see.
And they didn't deal with that bet any more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
Ma.
What will in the end happen afterwards?
Right. So, okay. So what is he actually saying here? He's saying, because that a person shouldn't say, a person shouldn't say in his heart, why should I spend this? Why should I waste, right, this money on tzedakah? Better for me, a person shouldn't say this. It'd be better for me that I leave it to my son after me, or that I keep it around so that I added in the keep it around, that I should eat from it in my own old age rather than giving it to somebody else right now, because who knows what's going to be in the future, right? In other words, if I don't have trust in Hashem, and more to the point, if I don't have trust in my kids and I don't have trust in the Jewish community that I'm a part of, then I figure I have to take care of myself. And I have to make sure that I have what to take care of me when I get older, because otherwise, I could be out on the street or who knows what. So, and Shlomo Melech, according to the Targum, is telling us you shouldn't think that way. All right. You shouldn't say, oh, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future, so then I have to be responsible for all of that. The only reason that you don't have to be responsible to make sure that absolutely everything is going to be just perfect for you in the future is because, number one, you have no control over what's going to be in the future. Not only do you not know, nobody knows. Okay. And number two, you should have trust in a Kosh Baruch. And I think that's the implication.
You said you should be happy with the Kohelet and Olam Haba that you're getting.
So you're thinking that's the Kihu Chalko, that's the thing right? Because that was sort of what I was implying, that's what you can take with you. I'm sort of thinking, I guess I was sort of, right? What do we say in Pirkei Avot? Ezehu Ashir, Hasamech B'Chelko.
Yeah.
Right? So you could understand that as your Chelik B'Olam Haba, but again, I think I want to go back to what I was reading from Reb Shlomo, is that feels to me like, who is it who's really happy? The person who is living in the present and feels right with him or herself about what they're doing now in the present. And it's not that we have no thought for the future and that we take no thought to the past, because both of those are also required of us. But the real essence of happiness is to be happy with what's going on with our lives now. Mm-hmm. And that's the portion that I have. Anything else is like I'm trying to borrow, like the past is in the past. The future isn't here yet. And who knows what's going to happen in the future? I don't know. Who knows that I'm going to be here in the future? If I spend too much of my time worrying about what I'm going to do, I'm not saying to not make plans. And I don't think Shlomo Melech is saying don't make plans. But the essence of real happiness is to be happy with where you are right now. Because that's the portion that you have right now, and you really don't know anything else. And so you need to live your life while it's true that you need to make plans and you need to, to look to a future. But I think and if there are things that you're not real happy with, clearly it behooves you to think about what kinds of changes, whether Gashmi or Ruchni or, whatever, are appropriate in order to improve the situation, to give, my take on it always is that I need to give God a hook to hang his miracles on, because that's how he likes to work in this world. So, I'm not going to take responsibility for the outcomes, but I want to keep opening doors for as many possible positive outcomes as I can. But, so what I'm here, it's interesting. So what I'm hearing here again is still that he's saying that I see that there's nothing better than that a person should be happy with the good deeds that he's doing, because that's the portion, that's what I have right now. And I have no clue what's coming. And so I have no need to, whatever. And then there's still this problem. I was talking with a friend today about, all the wonderful stories about tzaddikim who, like the Baal Shem Tov and others who, couldn't sleep at night if there was anything left. They handed everything out every day, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm not a tzaddik. I don't live on that level. And I don't think the Torah is expecting us to all live on that level. So and as a matter of fact, because I'll tell us that you're not supposed to, right? You're not supposed to give more than 20%. And then there are these few, and you're perfectly righteous if you're giving in the 10% range of your excess income. Like, let's be real with this. And real in the sense of what the Torah is really asking you. And, and sometimes I'm like, it's true, I don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So if I, I might not be here tomorrow, so I might as well give it all away now, except that I also have an obligation to not put myself in a situation where tomorrow the community is going to have to take care of me. So I have to find balance. And sometimes, I hear some of these things and I'm like, that's really dangerous. So my friend said, I don't know if you ever watched television at all. Like, I haven't watched television in ages, but back in the day and in the United States, and I don't know whether they have the same sort of disclaimers in England, even if you did watch television there, but they would show something and then they would say, this is being done by a professional or this is whatever, and don't repeat this at home, right? Not for home consumption, or don't repeat this at home. And so I'm like, some of these stories, some of this advice is like for tzaddikim, it's not for binonim. Like, okay. But I have to, because otherwise I can guilt myself into doing things that are not healthy and not right. And it's important to find that balance to be able to admire the tzaddikim, but not to necessarily push ourselves. All right. So that was the end. It was actually a nice ending to the chapter. So then he says, "V'shavtiani ve'era el et kol ha'ashukim asher na'asim tachat hashamash, yeah, because it's the etnachta. V'hine dim'at ha'ashukim ve'ein lehem menachem u'miyad oshkehem koach ve'ein lehem menachem." So I went back and I saw, he'd done this one sort of mechkar, this one kind of research, and he did that, and now he's going back and he says, wow. And so now I'm taking a look at all of the oppressed that were made under the sun. In other words, which we know from Targum means in this world, people who have been put into a position of being the oppressed, of being the victims of oppression in this world. And behold, the tear of those who are oppressed. I'm going to go with that translation of Dima. There are others. And they don't have anyone who will comfort them or who can help them reframe and see things in a different light. And from the hand of of the oppressors, those who oppress them, that's where the power is. And again, it repeats again, there's no one to console them. I think them now goes back to the oppressed. Utveit, okay, that's the Shavsi. I went back again. Anna, hi. V'chazit, and I saw Yat Kol Anisin, all of those who are, so it's like the word anus, people who are coerced, people who are forced into, in this case, unfortunate circumstances, or maybe not, just Kol Anisin, all of those who are coerced by whatever they're coerced. It avidu l'tzadikaya, that they became tzaddikim. Wow. V'irdu ba'alma haden t'chot shimsha. They became tzaddikim. Urdu, I'm not positive, so let's go take a look. Perush Milan. Aram, right? We know that means key. Targum or room. Okay, that was that yours? Where are we? Do this. We haven't gotten to Hechma yet. Oh, but the Misava, that was Pasuk 19. Shavti V'Tavit. Wonderful. That's the only word he's going to help us with. Because here's that Mibazbez, V'Kein Amru Chazal, Al Yibazbezu, don't waste. V'Hula Shan Pizur Mamon, Yoter Midai. Don't do it too much. Okay. But that was the pasuk you just did, and on our pasuk, all he has is Vashavti, and he doesn't do anything for this Erdul. So my problem is that I know that the shorish I'm thinking of is actually a Hebrew shorish, right? Lirdot is to show mastery. And I'm not convinced that it's the same shorish. So I don't know. I'm going to go pull my gestures. And then it says, in this world under the sun. Okay, very consistent, the Targum. From the hand of those who are dochek, who are pressing on them. There's no one who will speak with them and give them comfort. V'leit lemifrak hon min yad onsei hon, and there's no one who will, like Yikum Porkan. There's no one who will save them. Yeshua will give them Yeshua from the hand of those who are coercing them. Bitkof yada, with a strong hand, ubechela, and it's another bachayo, right? But also a word for strength. V'leiti yanchem lahon. Okay, the only word first of all, it's, and I saw all of these people who were coerced that were turned into tzaddikim. It's like, that's an interesting, it's like automatically by being the oppressed person, you become a tzaddik, is what it sounds like. And I don't know about this word that you're doing, so I'm going to go grab my jastas. Sorry, I didn't have it next to me. Okay, so I'm going to look first under Aleph Resh Dalet. Let's see. Okay, it's not there. I mean, there are some things with Aleph Resh Dalet, but totally not related. So I'm going to try it without the aleph, because sometimes that aleph is like the hay of the hifil. So, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I wanted to try it as the shoresh first. And if it didn't work, now I'm going to go to the resh. I love Jastro's. I really wish they would have put this book in from right to left instead of left to right, though. Makes me very confused to be turning backwards to find what feels to me to be backwards. Reish Gimel, Reish Daled. Reish Daled is to stamp, to rule over, to subjugate. So that is the same shoresh as we have. Oh, and it's actually interesting. We use that shoresh in the Gemara, but that's in the Bavli, and we've seen already because of the Arum, etc., that this is the Eretz Israel dialect. So I'm not sure always if the words are going to be the same. That Reish Daled means to plow.
Okay.
In the Bavli.
Okay.
But that's not likely to be here. But to drive, to rule, to yeah. You would think. So I think that it has the sense of that they were made tzaddikim and they were subjugated in this world. That there were others who radu behem, basically. That's how I'm understanding it. And I'm not quite sure. It's Anisim, those are the Ashukim that were made. So it's interesting, right? All we have here is Naasim. And so he's adding in that they were tzaddikim. They were made, what were they made into? Because I tried to translate it that they were, that somehow they were turned into the oppressed. But so that's what the Targum is answering, is they were made what? And then that irdu, I think, is that they were like trampled or subjugated. Okay. Your turn.
ושבחי
I think
אני ושבח אני את חמצים שכבר מתו מן החיים אשר הם החיים עדנה. And I praise the dead that already died more than the alive,
more than the living,
ones that are still alive.
Right. So if you want, I'll open up something else in addition to the Targum, because the Gemara does some really lovely stuff with this pasuk.
Great.
So we can do the Targum and then we can go over and see the Agadata. Because this is Shlomo HaMelech, and who is, right? I mean, so first of all, you've translated it flat, but I mean, just like word. But if you think about it, he's talking about himself. He's the one who's alive, right? Who's the one who's dead?
His father?
His father, right? So he's making comparison between himself and David HaMelech, and that's where the Gemara goes with it. But there are other ways to go with it also. So first, let's hear what the Targum says, and then I'll open up some of the other connections.
ושבחות אנא יד שכיבה דהכבר מיתו, ולא חזי פורענותה דעתי בעלמא, בתר מותחון. I praise those who are laid down, which is those who are already dead, that they don't see the afflictions, sufferings, trouble that will come to the world after the death. יציר מן חייה דאינן קיימן בעלמא הדין, באקה עד כאן. More than the living ones, they are that they are still existing in this world. What is Be'aka Ad Kan?
So Aka, we've seen before, is like B'mitzuka. That they're in a state of affliction.
Okay.
Until now. So they're still in this state of seeing the stuff, and it's hard, and the one who's already dead, so he's free of all this affliction stuff. And he does not only doesn't have to deal with that which is coming, but he's also not suffering from anything right now. So just on the pshat, before you go take it off to David and Shlomo, etc., he's saying you're better off dead than alive, because alive you're still suffering, and when you're dead you're no longer suffering. It's not the prettiest, nicest flavor of how to negotiate being alive in the world. So let's see. It's either the Talmud or the which I tend to know better than I know the Midrash stuff, although I know Midrash. Okay, so this question was asked above by Rabbi Tanchum de Min Noi. This is the place he was from. He's from this place called Noi. Mahu lechabot potzina denura mikame beisha b'shabta. What's this deal about putting out a candle, the light, the flame of a candle, Isha on Shabbos, something or other that's I think that has a flame. I think here Isha here is the word for fire. Patach v'amar. So he opened up and he So you've been learning on and off the Ben Ish Chai with Yehudis when she brings it for things like Spirit of the Law. The Ben Ish Chai drushes in that sefer follow very much a pattern of drushes that goes way back. Okay, somebody will give a question, and the question, it doesn't matter which way the question starts, okay, but the question may start with something which seems to be halachic in nature, and the person who answers will open up and he will give like a gadata. He'll give other things to sort of give you a much broader sense of what's going on, he'll eventually get around to answering your halachic question. But whatever the halachic question is a hook that they hang the whole drasha on, right? And it's a pattern that was well known. And occasionally the Gemara itself, as in this case, the Gemara itself brings us the drasha. But for instance, Midrash Tanchuma, some of the Yalkuts, Lamdenu, it's called like that's also Tanchuma. It's like they ask a question and then the Patach Va'amar. So he opens up. The Paticha is like the Hakdama, the preface, the prefatory remarks that set the stage. Eventually, he will get on to the halachic answer. And so he opens up and he says, Ant Shlomo an Chachmatach. You, Shlomo, is talking about your wisdom. An Suklatunatach. Or where is your wisdom? Where is your intelligence, seichel, your understanding? Lo dayacha shedvarecha sotrin divrei David avicha. It's not enough for you. Like he's speaking to Shlomo HaMelech, who also by this time has passed away, because this is somebody in the time of the Gemara, right? And he says, it's not enough that your words contradict the words of David, your father. Ella shedvarecha sotrin zeh zeh. But furthermore, your words contradict themselves. Okay, David avicha amar, David, your father said, lo hametim yahalaluka, that the dead aren't able to praise God. So I would understand from that, right? Below kol yordei duma. It's like I would understand from that you're better off being alive, because if you're alive, you can give praise to God, and you can, right? And if you're dead, then you're right. Yordei duma. You go down to the adama. You go down to a state of being dome, of being silent. And you can't do mitzvot anymore. And that's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, better an hour in this world of doing mitzvahs than all of the Korat Ruach and Olam Haba. Mind you, the same Mishnah goes on and then flips it the other way and says better an hour of Korat Ruach. Anyway, but that's what he's talking about here. As he says, Lo meitim yaluka, and you said v'shabechani et meitim shekvar meitu. I think that that's contradicting what David said. V'chazarta v'amarta, and then later on in a different place, you say ki lekelev chai hu tov min ha'aryeh hamet. That it's better to be a living dog than to be a dead lion. So this is not, I do remember this one also, actually, but let's take a look at the Midrash, because okay, I'm not sure which one. Let's take a look at the ones that are about Kohelet, because that's really where we are. The one that's the Ein Yaakov is probably just a repeat of what we've already seen. V'shabechani et meitim shekvar meitu. Elu hatzadikim sharei nana Moshe Rabbeinu bizchutam shene'amar zachor la'avadecha la'Avram li'Yitzchak li'Yaakov. So I praise the ones who are already dead, meaning the avot, more than the one who's living. Moshe didn't ask in his own zchut, he asked in the zchut of others. Something acher. I would say siman, but that doesn't make sense to me here. I'm not sure. V'shabechani svara acher, maybe a different way to explain it. Shebechani etametim shekvar metu shekvar kiblu dinam. They already got their judgment, and so they know, like they're done, and they can't sin anymore. V'nit yashu min olam hazeh, and they're removed from this world. They're more than the chayim asher hema chayim adana ve'enam yodim ma'atid labo aleihem. They don't know. All right, so that was the Midrash Lachach Tov on Kohelet. But take a look at Kohelet Rabbah. We saw a little bit of it. I really thought it was that's Dor Enosh and Dor Hamabul. They're more praiseworthy than the Stomim and the Mitzrim. Okay. I don't understand that Midrash so well, because by the time of Shlomo Melech, the Stomim are gone, and the Mitzrim pretty much perished in the sea. So I'm like, don't know what that one's doing. All right.
Let's stop here because I have to.
You have to go anyway?
Yeah.
Is this the one that's getting longer? All right, fine. This is this repeated part of what we've already seen. Anyway, so it was, there is something else, and it may be on some other psukim, but, my recollection was this somehow was related to, remember the Tehillim where Shlomo Melech was trying to get the Beit to inaugurate the Beit HaMikdash.
Yeah.
And the gates to the Beit HaMikdash would not open for him.
Yeah.
And so until he, in the name of his father. Okay. That was one of the other things that's connected. I thought they brought this pasuk there also when they were discussing that in the Gemara, was that, the praise of the one who was already dead was greater and more acceptable, etc., than the one who is still alive. That was the one that I was thinking of, and that's obviously not the connections that Svarya found for us, but that's where we are. We're on this pasuk. We'll hold it, and I have to go do something else right now anyway, so thank you very much. Mirz Hashem, I will see you this week. Maybe tomorrow on the Zoom. Anyway, take care. You know that Yehuda is not feeling well, so
yes,
that
thank you.
if we have class at all, it'll be on Zoom. Okay, fine. Very good.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good
Stop
night.
this.